Good afternoon, class. Sorry, I thought my computer froze, but it's working. Yay. Alright, so today I have a class. It's part of a two-part, maybe more class on the benefits of certain things, emotions that we have, and what's good about them, and maybe sometimes what's not so good about them. But we're going to start today with, because, it's been a tumultuous time. People have had a tough time, obviously, with living through a pandemic, and there's different kind of stresses and people react differently. And so today, if any of this has been making you upset, maybe a little bit sad, a little bit depressed, things like that, totally understandable, but please reach out to people if you are. But I'm going to go over today an emotion that a lot of people kind of put a stigma around, and it's on crying. So a lot of people feel that crying is something that I'm going to move my chair real fast because there's that thing right in my face. But the crying is not a good thing, that you're not supposed to cry in public, that you're not supposed to cry other places. And so this, I looked up an article on Helpline on what the benefits of crying are. So that, if you do cry, you can know that there are benefits to it. That it doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing. So let's go over, and they say there's 9 ways crying may benefit your health. So they will go into other things as well. But crying is a common human reaction or action, and it can be triggered by many different emotions. But why do we cry? So researchers have found that crying can benefit both body and your mind, and these benefits begin with a baby's first cry. So crying starts from infancy. You always see those movies whenever there's a baby born. You hear it crying. Well, that's the very first emotion that you have, is crying. At least as you come into the world. And, well, they'll go into it more, so I won't ruin the story for you. But let's start with the 9 ways that crying may benefit your health. 1, it detoxifies the body. So we have lots of toxins and things like that inside our body, from foods we eat, from the air we breathe, things like that. It's almost impossible to get away from it all. But so there are 3 different types of tears. There's reflex tears, continuous tears, and emotional tears. The ones where So reflex tears clear debris like smoke and dust from your eyes. So you get something in your eye and you start to cry, or your eyes start to water. That's just your body kind of being like, okay, I got to get this out of my eye. It's also where you try to go with your hands. Continuous tears lubricate your eyes and help prevent them from infection. And emotional tears may have many health benefits. Whereas continuous tears contain 98% water, emotional tears contain stress hormones and other toxins. Researchers have theorized that crying flushes these out of your system, though more research is needed in this area. So some of the toxins when you cry from emotional stress or emotional feeling, people cry when they're happy too, actually helps get rid of some of those toxins that are inside you, so it detoxifies your body. Another way that crying may help benefit you is help self-soothe. Crying can be one of the best mechanisms to self-soothe. So basically calming yourself down. Researchers have found that crying activates the parasympathetic nervous system, or PNS. Okay, I'm sure but this system helps your body rest and digest. These benefits aren't immediate, however, it may take several minutes of shedding tears before you feel the soothing effects of crying. So that what they're talking about is that kind of relief when you have cried. Sometimes, you feel pent up. And as my mom always said, have a good cry. Then what happens is you start to feel more soothed. You feel calmer. And that's a good thing. So another way, 3rd way, it dulls pain. Crying for long periods of time releases oxytocin. So oxytocin and endogenous opioids, otherwise known as endorphins, which are the things that make you happy. These feel-good chemicals can help ease both physical and emotional pain. Once the endorphins, or those feel-good feelings, are released, your body may go to somewhat of a numb stage where you're not feeling much of anything. Oxytocin can give you a sense of calm or well-being. It's another example of how crying is a self-soothing action. Again, you cry and it releases endorphins, so you start to feel better because we pent up a lot of stuff. And again, that's why a lot of people say, it's best to not hold in your tears. Number 4, it improves your mood. So along with helping you ease pain, crying, specifically sobbing, like really crying, lifts your spirits. When you sob, you take in many quick breaths of cool air. Breathing in cooler air can help regulate and even lower the temperature of your brain. And a cool brain is more pleasurable to your body and mind than a warm brain. As a result, your mood may improve after a sobbing episode. So again, that's what people say, breathe, breathe, breathe. And some people even use like a paper bag or something. But that sobbing, when you're really crying, you're really taking in a lot of different air and things like that, and it improves your mood. Number 5, it rallies support. Okay, this is an interesting. If you're feeling blue, crying is one of those ways to let those around you know that you are in need of support. And this happens even in animals, I see. This is known as interpersonal benefit, so benefit with people. From the time you're a baby, crying has been an attachment behavior. Its function is in many ways to obtain comfort and care from others. In other words, helps build up your social support network when the going gets tough. So a lot of times you see, your friends or your family, and if you're not really a crying person, everybody cries. But you will notice if somebody sees you cry, people will be like, "What? Are you okay?" And you'll really see that people do care, even strangers. I mean, I've cried before, and somebody's come up and been like, "Are you all right, sir?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm fine. Just need a moment." And it's okay to be sad. It's okay to cry. Number 6, it helps you recover from grief. So grieving is a process. So say somebody passes away, something bad happens in your life, and you're grieving. It's a process. It involves periods of sorrow, numbness, guilt, and anger. And crying is particularly important during periods of grieving. It may even help you process and accept the loss of a loved one, which is sometimes hard to accept. Everyone goes through the grieving process in different ways. If you find your crying is extreme or starting to interfere with everyday life, it might be a good idea to check in with your doctor. So, that is one of the ways, and sometimes if you can't stop crying, just like if you can't stop hiccuping or you can't stop all sorts of things, that it's overtaking you, or you can't stop laughing. There's also that, where some people can't stop laughing, and if you can't do that, then it's time to, or some people even I was watching this thing with Howard Hughes. He would say the same phrase over and over and would get him caught himself in a loop. Well, that's when you need to see a doctor. So number 7, it restores emotional balance. Crying doesn't only help, so you're off balance sometimes. We're all off balance sometimes, some more than others. Crying doesn't only happen in response to something sad. Sometimes you may cry when you're extremely happy, scared, or stressed. Researchers at Yale University believe crying this way may help restore emotional equilibrium. When you're incredibly happy or scared about something and cry, it may be your body's way to recover from experience such a strong emotion. So that's a good thing. Because it does. It's like, sometimes we all say that we have a baseline. When something happens, it can take you off your baseline. And so you're up here when you really need to stay down here, to where you can function. And crying can do that sometimes. When you're really out and you cry, again, it's that self-soothing, and it brings you back to your, calms you down, and you're almost ready for a restart. Number 8. So we went over it. Well, I said I wasn't going to ruin it. So it helps babies breathe. Or baby breath. I don't know. A baby's very first cry out of the womb is a very important cry. Babies receive their oxygen inside the womb through the umbilical cord. Once a baby is delivered, they must start breathing on their own. The first cry is what helps a baby's lungs adapt to life out in the outside world. Crying also for a baby helps them clear out any extra fluid in the lungs, nose, and mouth. And lastly, it helps babies sleep. So crying may also help babies sleep better at night. In a small study on infant sleep, 43 babies used graduated extension, also known as controlled crying, to put their babies down to bed. With controlled crying, babies were left to cry for a set number of minutes before intervention from their parents. Seems a little mean. The crying increased both the sleep length and reduced the number of times the infants woke during a night. A year later, the crying did not appear to increase stress in the infants or negatively impact the parent-child bond. Okay. Now, I'm going to skip this part. Yes. But it does have to go into some other stuff. So, when should you seek help, though, when it comes to crying? So, crying in response to something makes you happy or sad. Crying in response to something that makes you happy or sad is normal and healthy. Don't shy away from shedding tears if you feel the need to release. Excessive crying is something you should chat about with your doctor, however. If crying starts to interfere with your everyday activities, it may be a sign of depression. Other symptoms of depression include feeling of sadness or hopelessness, feelings of irritability or frustration, changes in appetite or weight loss or gain, lack of energy, trouble sleeping or sleeping too much, unexplained aches or pains, and of course, other thoughts of self-harm or things like that. So, if you need somebody to talk to, there's always, lines that you can call. There's family and friends that you can call, and of course, consult your doctor. Because, we want to be happy and we want to make sure that everybody is happy. So, that has been part 1. Tomorrow I'll have something else. But again, ultimately, as we've gone over, crying is a good thing. I think if you hold back crying a little bit too much, that could be a little devastating for your body. So you want to make sure that you give yourself and your body a chance to really have a good cry. Bring you down to your baseline again. Self-soothe, release toxins, and it's just good for your overall emotional well-being. And don't be afraid of it. Don't listen to stigmas or people saying, oh, it's not manly to cry. It's not. It's a human reaction. It's a human thing. So, if you feel like crying, please cry. I cry all the time. I cry at movies. I cry when I hear certain songs on the radio. I cry at operas. There's all sorts of things. And it's normal. And I would feel weird at this point not doing it. I mean, I don't cry. Well, I'll tell you one story. There was one time I was trying not to cry. It was Martin Luther King's birthday. And so, because we have that day off, so it must have been like either the day before or the day after. And so I decided to read the I Have a Dream speech, and I was working at the Boys and Girls Club, and I had about 30 kids in the room. It was me and my associate, in the room, and I was like, okay, I'm going to read this. And I started to read it. And the thing is I really thought about everything that happened with the civil rights movement, and how wonderful it was, and what a great man he really was, and the words. He was a very powerful orator as well as writer. And I started to cry, so I just held the book up to my face. It was like, okay, I'm gonna start crying now, so let's not let the kids see it on your face. Just because crying at that moment, for me, it would have been good for me to go in the other room and read it. I should have done a dry run and read it first. But I think it would have taken away, instead of listening to the words, I'd been like, do you remember that time you just did a crying in front of everybody? And I don't remember if I actually had to leave and pass it off to the other teacher that was in the class. So, but anyway, I'm not saying that would have been bad for me to cry in front of them. I just think it would have distracted from a lot of what I was actually doing. I would have explained that it's emotional. This is powerful stuff, but I digress. Anyway, crying is a good thing. Don't feel embarrassed by doing it. And do it more if you can. Unless it's happening too much, then obviously you should seek doctor's advice. Anyway, I'll see you tomorrow for the next one. Bye.